The city stretched out beneath me like a glittering map of choices I once wasn't allowed to have. From the 23rd floor of my office, the glass windows framed Manhattan in shades of steel and gold. My silk blouse clung lightly to my skin, still carrying the warmth of the morning sun, and I adjusted the cuff links with the same quiet precision I'd learned to use in every part of my life. On the desk before me, a stack of contracts waited, embossed, thick, carrying the weight of power. My pen tapped against the top page, a nervous rhythm that betrayed none of the calm I projected. The irony was so sharp I could almost taste it, the very people who once looked me in the eye and told me, "No, Emily, this isn't for you. Don't expect us to help." We're now minutes away from sitting across this polished oak table. My phone buzzed. A single message from Claire, my assistant. "They're here." For a second, I let the words hang in the air, like smoke twisting upward. My pulse picked up, a thrum beneath my collarbone, but I inhaled slowly and leaned back in my chair. I'd trained myself for this moment. The calm before the storm, the mask of composure I wore like armor. Outside my office door, footsteps echoed. The sound of the past walking back into my life, unknowing that today, they wouldn't be in charge. I would. I wasn't always the woman behind the glass desk. A few years ago, I was just Emily Carter, 22, fresh out of college, clutching a notebook full of ideas that no one took seriously. I remember standing in my parents' kitchen in Ohio, the yellow light flickering above, my hands trembling as I tried to explain my vision. "I just need a little help to get started," I told them, my voice wobbling but determined. "A small loan or even just your support while I look for investors. I know this business can work." My father sighed the way only a disappointed parent could, slow and heavy, before pushing his chair back from the table. "Emily, you're chasing fantasies. This isn't practical. You need stability. A safe job. Stop embarrassing yourself." My mother avoided my eyes, stirring her coffee as if the sugar at the bottom mattered more than my future. And my older brother, Jason, leaned against the counter, smirking. "You? Run a company? Come on, Em. You can barely balance a checkbook." The sting hit harder than I let them see. I pressed my nails into my palm under the table, holding back tears. Their words weren't just rejection, they were dismissal, a verdict on who they believed I was, and who I would never be. That night, when the house had gone quiet, I slipped into my room and pulled out the leather-bound journal my grandmother had given me for graduation. On the first page, she had written in her looping handwriting, "When doors close, build your own. You're stronger than you know." I traced those words over and over with my fingertip until they blurred. My grandmother had passed away the year before, but somehow I felt her presence in that moment, steadying me, urging me not to beg anyone to believe in me. The next morning, I packed my suitcase, sliding the journal into the side pocket. I didn't make a scene. I didn't announce my departure. I just left, boarded a bus to New York City with $200, a half-broken laptop, and a vow burning inside me. I swore I would never again ask for permission to chase my dreams. If they wouldn't help me build, then I'd build without them. That was the day Emily Carter stopped waiting for approval. And the day I started writing my own story. New York didn't welcome me with open arms. It swallowed me whole and tested me at every corner. My first apartment was a fifth-floor walk-up in Brooklyn, with peeling paint on the walls and a heater that rattled like an old man coughing. At night, I'd hear the couple next door arguing through the paper-thin walls, and I'd curl up on a thrift store mattress with my grandmother's journal clutched to my chest. Days were harder. I worked 2 part-time jobs, waiting tables at a diner in the mornings and folding clothes in a retail store at night. My feet blistered, my voice cracked from repeating, "Can I get you anything else?" 100 times a day. But every night, when my shift ended, I opened my laptop and poured myself into research. Business plans, market trends, online courses I could barely afford. I devoured them all like a starving woman. There were nights when the doubts nearly won. Nights when I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, hair messy, mascara smudged, whispering, maybe they were right. But then I'd flip open the journal and see my grandmother's words. When doors close, build your own. One evening, after weeks of hesitation, I went to a networking event in Midtown. I remember standing in the corner, clutching a lukewarm cup of coffee, trying to look confident while my stomach twisted. That's where I met Linda Hayes, a seasoned entrepreneur with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through me. "You've been standing in that corner for 20 minutes, she said with a smile, walking over. "Are you going to introduce yourself? Or just keep practicing in your head?" I laughed nervously, but somehow, her warmth made it easier. I told her about my idea, shaky, rushed words spilling out, and instead of dismissing me, she leaned in closer. "You've got fire," she said. "It just needs direction. Come by my office tomorrow." Linda became my mentor. She didn't hand me success. She demanded I earn it. She ripped apart my business plan, taught me how to pitch, and reminded me every time I faltered that doubt was natural, but quitting wasn't an option. The first breakthrough came months later, a small contract with a boutique clothing line that needed marketing help. I remember sitting in my tiny apartment, staring at the signed email, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't much, but it was mine. From there, the steps grew. One client became 3. 3 became 10. I reinvested every penny, $8 pizza slices for dinner, and kept my head down. Slowly, painfully, my business began to take shape. I didn't share much online. A vague post here and there about new projects or exciting opportunities. To my family back in Ohio, it probably looked like I was barely getting by. That was fine with me. Let them underestimate me. Let them imagine me struggling. Because the truth was, I wasn't struggling anymore. I was building an empire in silence. And every contract I signed felt like one more brick in the wall between who they thought I was and who I was becoming. The knock on my office door was soft but deliberate. Claire leaned in, her expression carefully neutral. "They're waiting in the conference room." I stood slowly, smoothing down my silk blouse, slipping into the quiet confidence I had rehearsed for years. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I walked down the hallway lined with framed awards and photographs, milestones of the journey I had never shared with them. The corridor smelled faintly of fresh lilies from the arrangement Claire had placed that morning. Details mattered to me. Everything they were about to see mattered. When I opened the glass doors to the conference room, the air shifted. There they were, my father, seated stiffly in his navy suit, my mother fidgeting with the strap of her handbag, and Jason, arms folded, scanning the space with a mixture of curiosity and unease. The room itself was a statement, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline, a long walnut table polished to a mirror shine, and on the far wall, a single framed quote I had chosen years ago. "When doors close, build your own." My father cleared his throat. "Emily." He tried to sound casual, but his voice betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. "Mr. Carter," I said smoothly, lowering myself into the chair at the head of the table. "Mrs. Carter." "Jason. Thank you for coming." My mother's eyes darted nervously. This is your office?" "Yes," I replied, letting the words settle in the room. "Welcome to Carter and Hayes Consulting. I'm the founder and CEO." Jason let out a short laugh, though it lacked confidence.
"CEO?
"Wait, you run this place." "Not just run," I said, sliding the contracts across the table.
"Own."
"And these are the agreements you came here to sign. Employment contracts. Under my terms." The silence that followed was delicious in its weight. My father's jaw tightened. My mother blinked, as if trying to piece together an image that didn't match her expectations. Jason's smirk faltered into something closer to disbelief. I leaned back, watching them absorb it all. "Funny, isn't it? Years ago, when I asked for help, you told me I was chasing fantasies. That I wasn't capable. That I should stop embarrassing myself. And now," I gestured at the papers. "Now you're here, asking for a place in something I built without you." My father opened his mouth, then closed it again. For once, he had no lecture prepared. My mother's fingers trembled as she reached for a pen but pulled back quickly, as though touching the contract would make it too real. Jason finally broke the silence. So, what? You're going to lord this over us? Make us beg. I met his eyes, steady and unflinching.
No.
I don't need to make anyone beg. The contracts speak for themselves. You either sign and step into this new chapter, or you walk away. That choice is yours. But the terms, I tapped the papers lightly. Those are mine. The skyline behind me burned gold as the sun dipped lower, the reflection of the city lights flickering against the glass. It felt symbolic, like the universe itself was bearing witness to this reversal. For years, I had carried their words like chains around my ankles.
Tonight, those chains shattered.
I let the silence stretch, watching their faces shift, pride crumbling into shame, arrogance dissolving into unease. And finally, something else flickered in their expressions: realization. They had refused to help me, but now here they were, sitting in my office, signing under my contract. I didn't rush them. I sat in silence, fingers laced together on the table, watching the way they shifted uncomfortably under the weight of my gaze. For years, I had been the one shrinking, the one fidgeting, the one biting back words. Not anymore. Finally, my father leaned forward, his voice low. Emily, this is impressive. More than I imagined. But these contracts, are you sure they're necessary? Yes, I said, clear and calm. They're necessary. Because this isn't just about business. It's about boundaries. Jason scoffed. Boundaries? What is this therapy? I smiled slightly, though it didn't reach my eyes.
No, Jason.
This is reality. You're here because you need this. And I'm willing to offer it. But my help comes with conditions. My mother's voice trembled. Conditions? I opened the first folder and slid it toward Jason. Jason, you've wasted years drifting from one scheme to another, always chasing shortcuts. If you work under me, you'll follow structure. No cutting corners, no half-hearted effort. You'll learn discipline or you'll walk. He bristled, but I didn't flinch. For once, his anger had no power over me. Next, I turned to my mother. Mom, you've spent your life pretending not to see things. Avoiding conflict, keeping quiet even when you should have spoken up. If you want a role here, you'll have to do the opposite. I need someone who sees details, who notices what others ignore, and who speaks up when it matters. That's your condition. Her eyes glistened, her lips parting as if to argue, but no words came. Finally, I met my father's stare.
And you taught me what doubt feels like.
Every time you dismissed me, every time you told me to lower my voice, you planted that seed. But if you want to be part of this company, your condition is simple: respect. Respect my leadership, respect my decisions, and respect the people under this roof. If you can't, there's the door. The room was so quiet I could hear the faint hum of the air conditioner. None of them spoke. None of them could. I leaned forward, voice softer but firm. This isn't revenge. This isn't punishment. This is about accountability. I'm giving you a chance I was never given, a chance to rise, to grow, to prove yourselves. But you'll do it under my terms, not the other way around. Jason looked away first, his jaw tight. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue she pulled from her purse. My father's gaze, hard and calculating, finally broke as he exhaled, shoulders sinking. For the first time in years, I wasn't the little girl asking for permission. I was the woman setting the rules. I tapped the contracts once more. The pen is right there. Take it or leave it. Either way, I'll be fine. The power was mine. Not because I forced it, but because I had earned it. The sound of pens scratching against paper filled the room. One by one, they signed. Jason with a reluctant flick of his wrist, my mother with trembling hands, and finally my father, who paused the longest before pressing his signature onto the page. When it was done, I gathered the contracts neatly and closed the folder with a quiet snap. The moment felt surreal. Years of rejection, loneliness, and silence condensed into this single gesture of acknowledgement. Claire entered then, her heels clicking softly, and collected the folders. Congratulations, she said to me, her eyes gleaming with pride. I nodded, keeping my expression composed. though inside my chest, something heavy finally lifted. The days that followed were strange. Watching them step into their roles within my company was like watching shadows learn to walk in sunlight. Jason struggled with the discipline, but I noticed him showing up earlier, staying later, slowly unlearning his arrogance. My mother surprised me most, her quiet voice finding strength, her eyes catching mistakes others missed. And my father, though still guarded, began to listen more than he spoke. It wasn't transformation overnight, but it was movement.
Growth.
And me? I learned something too. That power isn't about making others small. It's about choosing when to lift, when to guide, and when to let go. One evening, long after the office had emptied, I sat alone at my desk. The skyline twinkled outside, but my eyes drifted to the leather-bound journal resting on the shelf. I opened it, fingers brushing the faded ink of my grandmother's handwriting. When doors close, build your own. You're stronger than you know. I smiled, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. She had been right all along. I had built my own doors, my own walls, my own empire. And now, even those who once refused to help me were walking through the doors I had created. Not because I needed their approval, not because I sought revenge, but because life has a way of circling back, of balancing the scales. I closed the journal gently and whispered into the quiet room, as though she could hear me still. I did it, Grandma. And I did it on my own terms. I leaned back, exhaling slowly, letting the peace settle in my bones. The journey had been brutal, but it had made me unshakable. And as the city lights flickered like stars across the horizon, I let the final truth settle over me, warm and undeniable. They had refused to help me once. Now they worked under my contract. Not revenge. Not anger. Just destiny.